Hello, my wonderful Golden Seniors. Welcome back to Golden Seniors Living, where we prove that the best gardens bloom after 60. I need to stop you right where you are before you plant another single seed. What I'm about to share could be the difference between a thriving garden that feeds your family all season long and watching hundreds of dollars worth of plants slowly die in front of your eyes. I've helped thousands of seniors create beautiful container gardens, but I keep seeing the same 5 devastating mistakes over and over again. These aren't small mistakes. They're garden killers, plant destroyers, and money wasters. If you're making even one of them right now, your plants are struggling, and you might not even know why. But here's the good news. By the end of this deep dive, you'll know exactly what these mistakes are, how to spot them, and how to fix them forever. We're covering drainage disasters, sizing secrets, soil solutions, spacing strategies, and watering wisdom that will transform your container garden from surviving to absolutely. If this is your first time joining our Golden Seniors family, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell right now. I share practical, senior-friendly gardening advice every single week designed specifically for our unique needs. Now comment below if you've ever had a container plant mysteriously die on you, even though you thought you were doing everything right. I bet almost every one of you will say yes, and that's exactly why we need to talk today. Alright, let's dive into mistake number 1, and I'm going to start with something that might shock you. This beautiful little decorative pot right here. This innocent-looking container is actually a plant killer in disguise. Now I know what you're thinking, but it's so pretty, and you're absolutely right. It is pretty. But here's what most gardeners don't understand about container size. Your plant's root systems are like the foundation of a house. If the foundation is too small, the whole structure becomes unstable. When a plant's roots run out of space, several terrible things occur simultaneously. First, they can't absorb enough water, even if you're watering correctly. Second, they can't access enough nutrients, no matter how good your soil is. Third, they become root-bound, which means the roots start circling around themselves and actually strangle the plant from the inside. Now pause this video and go look at your containers. Are your plants looking stunted? Are the leaves yellowing from the bottom up? Are you watering more and more frequently? These are all signs that your containers might be too small. Here's the challenge for us seniors. Bigger containers mean heavier containers. But I've got solutions for you. First, use lightweight containers made from resin or fiberglass that look like ceramic but weigh a fraction of the amount. Second, use container caddies with wheels. These platforms slip under your pots and let you move them easily. Let me give you my golden rules for container sizing. For herbs like basil and parsley, you need at minimum an 8-inch diameter pot, but 10 inches is better. For leafy greens like lettuce and spinach, go for 10 to 12 inches wide and at least 8 inches deep. For peppers and smaller tomato varieties, you need at least a 15-gallon container. And for full-size tomatoes, don't even think about anything smaller than 20 gallons. Now I know larger containers are more expensive, but here's a secret might. It's actually cheaper to buy the right size container once than to keep replacing plants that die in containers that are too small. Plus, you can find fantastic large containers at thrift stores and garage sales. So grab a measuring tape and measure your containers right now. Compare them to the guidelines I just gave you. Don't be discouraged if you need bigger containers. This means you're about to solve a major problem in your garden. Even if you get your container size perfect, mistake number 2 is lurking, and this one is even more deadly. It's the number 1 reason container plants die, and I bet 90% of you are making this mistake right now. Let's tackle that next. We're moving on to mistake number 2, and this one makes me more upset than any other because it's completely preventable, yet it kills more plants than pests, diseases, and neglect combined. What am I talking about? Poor drainage setup. Most people think plants die from too little water, but the shocking truth is that more plants die from too much water than from drought. In containers, this problem is magnified tenfold. Imagine your plant's roots sitting in a pool of stagnant water. There's no oxygen reaching them. They literally can't breathe. Slowly but surely they start to rot. The plant above ground might look fine for a while, but underneath the entire root system is dying. So how do you know if your containers have drainage problems? Here are the warning signs. First, does water pool on the surface when you water? Second, do your containers smell sour or musty? Third, are your plant's leaves turning yellow from the bottom? Fourth, do the stems feel soft near the soil line? Any of these signs means you have a drainage emergency. Here's where most people go wrong. They think one little hole in the bottom is enough. Friends, that's like trying to empty a bathtub through a straw. For proper drainage, you need multiple holes. For a 12-inch pot, I want at least 5 1/4-inch holes. For bigger pots, even more. But I can't drill holes in my beautiful ceramic pots. Yes, you can. Buy ceramic drill bits at any hardware store for just a few dollars. Drill slowly and keep the bit wet. If you're not comfortable using a drill, ask a neighbor for help. If you absolutely cannot drill holes, use the double pot method. Plant in a smaller plastic pot with drainage holes, then place that inside your decorative pot. Just lift out the inner pot after watering to empty excess water. Now let me bust a dangerous myth. Some people put gravel or rocks in the bottom of containers, thinking this improves drainage. This is completely wrong, and actually makes drainage worse. Never put rocks or gravel in the bottom of your containers. So what should you put in the bottom? Absolutely nothing except good potting soil. The drainage holes are all you need. To prevent soil from washing out, place a small piece of screen or coffee filter over each hole before adding soil. Here's something special for us seniors. As we age, we might not notice changes as quickly. That's why I recommend the finger test for drainage. Stick your finger 2 inches into the soil. If it's soggy, you have drainage problems. If it's moist but not waterlogged, you're perfect. Here's your homework. Go check every container for proper drainage. Count the holes. Test them by running water through. And if they're not draining within 30 seconds, you know what to do. Now, even if you've got perfect drainage, mistake number 3 is waiting to sabotage everything. It's hiding in every garden center. Looks innocent enough, but it's completely wrong for container gardening. We're diving into mistake number 3, and this one is particularly sneaky because it seems so logical. Picture this, Misi, you're at the garden center, you see garden soil, and think perfect. So you fill your containers and wonder why your plants struggle. Here's the truth. Garden centers don't always make clear. Misi garden soil is designed for in-ground gardens, not containers. Using garden soil in containers is like wearing hiking boots to go swimming. It might seem like it should work, but it's completely wrong. Garden soil is heavy and dense because it's meant to be mixed with existing yard soil. When you put it in a container, it compacts down like concrete. Water can't move through it, air can't reach the roots, and your plants essentially suffocate. So what should you use? Potting mix or container mix? These are specifically formulated to be lightweight, well-draining, and perfect for container growing. They contain ingredients like peat moss, vermiculite, and perlite that keep the soil fluffy and airy. Here's where it gets tricky for us seniors. Sometimes labeling isn't clear. Look for bags that specifically say potting mix, container mix, or potting soil. Avoid anything that says garden soil, topsoil, or compost by itself. Pro tip: miss a good potting mix should feel light when you lift the bag. I know potting mix is more expensive, but it's still cheaper than replacing dead plants every year. You can extend potting mix by mixing it with some good compost. About 3 parts potting mix to 1 part compost. You can also reuse potting mix from year to year if you refresh it with new compost and fertilizer. For us seniors, there are special considerations. First, lighter soil means lighter containers, easier on our backs and joints. Second, good potting mix retains moisture better, which means less frequent watering. Here's a fantastic tool every senior gardener should have: Midas moisture meter. It costs about $10, and you just stick it into your soil to see if it's wet, moist, or dry. This is especially helpful if you have vision issues or arthritis. Here's a simple test to check if your soil is right for containers. Take a handful of moist soil and squeeze it in your fist. When you open your hand, the soil should hold together loosely, but crumble apart when you poke it. If it forms a tight ball, it's too heavy. If it falls apart immediately, it might be too sandy. Your assignment is to check what type of soil you're currently using. Read the labels, do the squeeze test, and honestly evaluate whether your soil might be part of the problem. Don't be discouraged if you need to switch IDs. This could be the breakthrough your garden has been waiting for. Even with perfect containers, drainage and soil, mistake number 4 can still destroy your harvest. It seems like you're being generous to your plants, but you're actually being cruel. Welcome to mistake number 4, and this one hits close to home because it comes from love and enthusiasm. We want to grow as much as possible in our limited space, so we pack our containers full of plants. But what we're actually creating is a war zone where our plants are fighting each other to the death. Imagine putting you in a small room with 5 other people and only providing enough food and water for 3 people. You'd all be competing for resources, everyone would be stressed, and ultimately everyone would suffer. That's exactly what happens when we overcrowd containers. Here's what's happening when plants are overcrowded. First, they're competing for nutrients, and container soil has limited nutrients. Second, they're fighting for water. Overcrowded plants dry out faster. Third, they're battling for light. When too close together, they shade each other out, leading to weak, spindly growth. How do you know if your containers are overcrowded? Here are the warning signs. First, your plants are tall and spindly instead of bushy missy. They're stretching toward light. Second, lower leaves are yellowing and dropping off. Third, you're getting lots of flowers, but little fruit. Stressed plants focus on reproduction rather than production. Fourth, you need to water constantly. Here's something that shocked me. The spacing requirements on seed packets aren't suggestions, they're requirements. When a tomato plant tag says 18 inches of space, that means 18 inches from center to center, not edge to edge. For us seniors, proper spacing becomes even more important, because we need productive low-maintenance gardens. When plants are properly spaced, they're healthier, resist pests better, and require less intervention. Plus, properly spaced plants are easier to harvest. Let me give you my proven spacing guidelines. For a 12-inch container, you can grow 1 small tomato plant, or 3 to 4 herb plants, or 6 to 8 lettuce plants. For an 18-inch container, 1 large tomato or pepper plant, or 6 to 8 herb plants. For a 24-inch container, 1 large tomato plus some herbs around the edges. Let me put this in financial terms. Let's say you buy 6 tomato plants for $30. If you overcrowd them, you might get 20 tomatoes total. But if you plant them properly spaced, each plant could give you 20 pounds of tomatoes. That's the difference between wasting your investment and getting real value. Proper spacing also makes pruning easier. When plants have room to breathe, you can see what you're doing. You can remove diseased parts before they spread, and proper air circulation prevents fungal diseases. I know it's hard to look at a newly planted container with just 1 plant and all that empty space. It feels like you're wasting room. But gardening teaches us patience, and within weeks, you'll see why that space was necessary. Here's what I want you to do. Go measure the spacing between plants in your current containers. Compare what you have to the requirements on plant tags. Be honest about whether you've been overcrowding. The important thing is recognizing it so you can fix it. Now we're coming to the final mistake, and this one might be the most devastating, because it can kill your plants even when everything else is perfect. We've reached the final, and perhaps most critical mistake, watering errors. Here's a truth that might surprise you. More container plants die from incorrect watering than from all other causes combined. But here's the twist. Most people kill their plants with kindness, watering too much rather than too little. Let me paint you a picture of what I see everywhere. Loving gardeners who water their containers every single day, like clockwork, thinking they're being responsible. Meanwhile, their plants are slowly drowning, developing root rot, and dying from the very care meant to save them. Here's what you need to understand about how plants use water. They don't sip it constantly like we drink coffee. Plants absorb water, use what they need, and then actually need a period where the soil dries out slightly before the next watering. This wet-dry cycle is crucial for healthy root development. The biggest watering mistake I see is daily watering, regardless of weather, plant needs, or soil conditions. This creates plant addiction. The roots never learn to search for water, because it's always available at the surface. The result is shallow, weak root systems. Here's a concept that will revolutionize your container gardening. Responsive watering based on conditions, not calendar days. On cool, cloudy days, your plants use much less water than on hot, sunny days. After rain, they might not need water for several days. Let me teach you the most reliable watering test, the finger test. Stick your index finger into the soil, about 2 inches deep. If it feels dry at that depth, it's time to water. If it's still moist, wait another day or two. I understand that as we age, we might face challenges with watering. Perhaps bending down is difficult, or maybe our vision isn't as sharp. Here are solutions. First, use a long-handled trowel or chopstick to check soil moisture without bending. Second, lightweight watering cans with long spouts reduce strain. Third, soaker hoses can automate much of the process. Here's something crucial: timing your watering. The best time to water is early morning, between 6 and 10 a.m. This gives plants time to absorb water before the heat of the day, and any water on leaves has time to dry before evening, preventing fungal diseases. Never water in the evening, unless it's an emergency. When you do water, water deeply and thoroughly. This means watering until water runs out the drainage holes, ensuring the entire root zone gets moisture. Light, frequent watering creates shallow root systems. Deep, less frequent watering encourages strong, resilient plants. Let me help you diagnose watering problems by symptoms. Overwatered plants have yellow leaves that drop off, mushy roots, and soil that smells sour. Underwatered plants have brown, crispy leaf edges, wilted leaves, and soil that pulls away from container sides. If you've been overwatering, don't panic. Many plants can recover if you catch it early. Stop watering immediately, improve drainage if possible, and remove any rotted parts. If you've been underwatering, water thoroughly, but gradually return to a proper schedule. Here's your immediate action plan. Starting tomorrow, stop all scheduled watering. Instead, check your containers daily, using the finger test, and only water when the test indicates it's needed. Keep a simple log for the first few weeks to learn your plant's patterns. I guarantee this single change will transform your container garden success. My wonderful golden seniors, we've covered tremendous ground today. Let's quickly recap these 5 garden-saving principles. First, size your containers properly for strong root development. Second, ensure excellent drainage to prevent root rot. Third, use quality potting mix designed for containers. Fourth, give your plants proper spacing to thrive without competition. And fifth, water responsively based on plant needs, not calendar schedules. Your mission for this week is simple: mold your current containers against these 5 principles. Don't try to fix everything at once. Pick the most critical issue and address that first. Remember, gardening is a journey, and every improvement brings you closer to the thriving garden you deserve. I want to hear from you. Comment below and tell me which of these 5 mistakes you discovered in your own garden. Share your success stories as you implement these changes. Our Golden Seniors community roos from each other. If this video has helped you understand your container gardening challenges better, please subscribe to Golden Seniors Living right now and hit that notification bell. I share practical, senior-friendly gardening wisdom every single week. Next week, I'm showing you my 3 favorite container combinations that will give you fresh food all winter long, even in cold climates. These are game changers for year-round gardening. Remember, age is just a number when it comes to gardening. Some of the most beautiful gardens I know belong to gardeners in their 70s, 80s, and beyond. You have wisdom and experience that younger gardeners can only dream of. Use it, trust it, and watch your garden flourish. Until next week, keep growing, keep learning, and remember, the best gardens bloom after 60.